Welcome, everybody, and thank you once again tuning in to the TT's newest production, Turning for Home. I'm your host, Andrew Calvano, and once again, what we're going to be doing is every week bringing out new handicappers. This way, we can kind of get a scope of how everybody picks the horses, try to make you some money, educate you guys, and just keep on doing the same thing we always do. This week, we got the best handicapper I know, Mark DiLorenzo, Hoboken native, the man himself. I don't know if this man ever loses money, but he's always on fire. It seems. It always. Giddy up, Mark. Thanks for coming on.
Giddy up. First time, long time. Thanks for having me on.
No problem at all. So we're gonna do a little something different this week. We're gonna go over the Pick Six carryover for Friday, June 16th. Mark Field has some strong opinions about it. I dug into it myself. Definitely feeling at it. So we'll
double carryover.
Yeah, double carryover. I believe it's 68,000. So we'll break it down, see where we can find some nice spot plays where we can single, and hopefully we can pay for my college education. What do you think, Mark?
Print some money.
Print some money as always, and then we'll dive into two races at Churchill Downs on Saturday, June 17th, of Stephen F. Foster in the 7th race right before. Let's see if we can hit that double. So, Mark, without further ado, let's jump into this Pick Six over here at Belmont. We start with race 4. It's an optional $40,000 7 furlong sprint on the turf, a field of 9 horses. We got an entry in there. The favorite is number 7, Start with Silver, 5-2 with Linda Rice and Jose Ortiz. Mark, how'd you see this race? Can you beat the favorite in here? What are you going to do?
Well, Andrew, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to talk horses, no matter who it's with and what the format, and speaking with someone like yourself who is just a great individual, hung out with you at Belmont on Saturday and just had a blast. So thank you for having me on.
Much appreciated. No problem.
Double Pick Six carryover tomorrow. First thing to keep in mind, there might be participation. Is that the way you're saying it? Rain? There might be rain tomorrow?
Yeah, rain.
Rain. Precipitation. Might rain tomorrow.
A lot of participation.
So keep that in mind. We're going to go through. I handicapped the races 4 through 9 as if we're going to get a little bit of rain, but nothing's going to get washed off. So with that in mind, I'm just going to kind of throw out a couple names and kind of how I'm going to structure my Pick Six ticket. Starting in the 4th race, like you said, it's going to be a small spread for me. I'm not a huge player. If I do play Pick Sixes, I enjoy the Pick 5 a little bit more because I can go a little bit deeper in some of these races. But the Pick 6, being a $2 minimum bet, you're going to get a good pool tomorrow. You're going to get good value. I'm going to use 3 horses. The first horse I'm going to use is the number 1, Lakeside Sunset. Simple reason, I love a good jail move. Jail move is, without going into too much detail, someone claims a horse, waits the month, because within that month, they are not allowed to drop the horse in the claiming ranks. They could keep him at the same level or move them up. And when they move them up, it's a sign of confidence. That's number 1. Jeremiah Englehart, I prefer him as a dirt trainer, but really like him in this spot here. Other than the jail move, I feel that there is one other thing that this horse has going for it. Hasn't run on the turf in a while. The last time, 2 back when he ran on the turf on August 28th, he was on the front end of a turf course at Saratoga. That when I charted that race course out that day, it's something that I do and I love to do and creates a lot of value and winners for me. That racetrack, that turf course was a closer-friendly race course. This horse was on the front end. Now, that was a while ago. I keep the notes in Formulator. Today, in the 5th race, he 95 to 1 shot, won. Big Cat Camille. Big Cat Camille on August 28th ran in the 11th race that day on August 28th. Was on the front end, came back and won today. I like to see that. This horse, the 1, last time it was run on the turf, was on the front end in the 9th race, just got beat. So I feel that being on the front end was a disadvantage. We saw that today in a 95 to 1 shot. You're going to get probably 5, 6 to 1 on this horse tomorrow. I think the 1 is my on-top play. Other than that, number 3, Weather Girl, Steve Asmussen, second time off a layoff. Asmussen's more dangerous. Had a real bad start last time, closed into a slow pace. The 3 is a must-use. Linda Rice on the outside with the 7, I think is a must-use. I think could probably get to the lead, stay there. Jose Ortiz, again, is having a terrific past couple of weeks. But Jockey likes to go to the front, is aggressive. Those would be my 3 picks in the 4th race at Belmont tomorrow to start the pick 6. What do you think?
Well, Mark, to start it off, we're using the exact same 3 horses, and I'll just go and I'll piggyback off what you said. Jeremiah Englehart, the jail move. Jeremiah Englehart, he always heats up during the spring meet at Belmont Park. You always got to try to catch him here. He's had some good turf runners. I know he brought in a big shot last week before the Belmont Stakes. I believe it was Thursday. Brought in a $38 horse, 38 to 1 shot in the last race on Thursday, I believe so. So like you said, jail move here. There's some confidence. Going to show some speed from the inside. Luis Saez gets aboard. Like you said, number 7, Start With Silver, is a must-use in here. I think this one's going to be tough to beat. But, Mark, you actually mentioned my top pick in here, and that's number 3, Weather Girl. Last out, off a long layoff, bobbled start. Didn't really get going and kind of flattened out in the stretch run here. But I think this one's going to be prepared to race this one today. Steve Asmussen, like you said, dangerous second off the layoff. He's 30%. Second off the layoff with turf runners going route to sprint. I really think this one's going to appreciate the cutback. If we look 2 back on December 4th at Aqueduct, this one caught a yielding turf course, finished 10th, didn't like it whatsoever. But let's go back to November 10th, where it comes right off the pace with Irad Ortiz and just draws away from what was a tough field of 9 and doing it from the inside, where the inside really wasn't playing well to turf that day. Going back, we got a win with Castellano aboard, and then some heavy thirds and seconds. Same thing with Irad Ortiz, facing tougher than what I think that she'll face today. So Weather Girl's going to be my top selection, but I think you got to include the 7 to get out of here, as well as the 1. So, Mark, it's good to see that we're on the same page to start off this pick 6.
Yeah, and to even just say a couple more things about the 3 as your top pick, 2 back ran against a pretty good field. Puka, who this mare lost to, is a very nice horse. Was a very nice horse for Belmont. Was behind in a very slow pace. Just a couple more things to like. And Asmussen, I feel, second time off the layoff. Definitely a use. You want to move to the 5th race?
Let's move on to the 5th race. Mark and I are going to use 137 to get us out of the opening leg there in the pick 6. We come across the 5th race here. It's $16,000. Non-winner of 2 lifetime. 1 mile, the 1-turn mile on dirt. We have 8 runners in here, and your favorite, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is Preziosa, 2 to 1 for Irad Ortiz, Rudy Rod. Mark, what do you think of this one? Who else can we use in here?
Going through this race, I went through it a bunch of times. I'm trying to figure out something sneaky, but I don't see much speed. So I think I'm going to try to sneak out of this race. I'm going to look at some of the double will pays, but my on-top pick is going to be number 7. Spirit, Let's Hear It.
You're reading my mind, Mark. You're reading my mind, my friend.
Second time off a layoff. Didn't have the greatest of starts last time. Went very quick early. Got tired. I'm a little bit afraid of the mile distance, but ran a decent race. Her second time out. Going 2 turns at Aqueduct. It's going to see this lowest level ever. Puts on the bug. And Mr. Diaz. Let's clear the field. There's 2 races in here that I need to spread to get out of this pick 6. Because they're just wide open, specifically the last race. I think I'm going to single the 7 in here. Get to the lead, never look back. I like it. What are your thoughts?
Well, Mark, you and I have the same single. I'm not too much of a pick 6 player, so when I'm playing a pick 6, I really go off strong opinions, and I do not have a stronger opinion on the card than I do number 7 here, Spirit, Let's Hear It. A lot of top guys that I follow are high on this horse, so Mark, it's reassuring to hear that you're on this one as well. But let's look back at this one. Started off her career very strong. Won a Maiden 25 immediately off a 4-month layoff. Had some confidence. They booped him up to an optional 75,000. Ran a good second. Just got caught late by Arch My Baby. Then we go to March 31st, running an optional 50, going to 1 turn over a sloppy course at Aqueduct. Notice this horse was 3 to 1 that day. Well bet. Dropped down immediately with Gary Gullo here for April 13th. And just ran an even second. Didn't really get things going, but I think there's excuses in that last race, like you mentioned, off the layoff. Broke out, wasn't the greatest of starts, like you mentioned, was 5 wide late, and just kind of pulled up by Arroyo. If you watch the replay, this one had no interest, and Arroyo just kind of saved some horse for the next time out start, which would be here. I'm not the biggest fan of the connections here, but like you said, Mark, in a race that doesn't really have too much speed, and speed has been doing okay last 2 days here at Belmont Park. So hopefully this one gets to the front end with Hector Diaz. You have the bug. Hopefully he's more aggressive on. I'm not too sold on the favorite here. I think this one is definitely beatable. I think this one will be closer to 7-5 come post time. So I think there's going to be more of a price on the 7 in the pick 6. And like I said, in a pick 6 that I often don't play, I'm all about making strong opinions. Do I honestly think that I'm even going to go 6-6 in the pick 6? I have confidence in myself, but in the pick 6, it's very tough. So this is why I'm just going to single here. I have 3 strong horses. If I single here, I think the rest of the card is hittable after this one. So if we can sneak out of here with a $13 horse, I think we're looking pretty good. So this is where I'll single with number 7, Spear. Let's hear it. Mark, like I said, very reassuring to hear you're on the same thing.
We're on the same page. I feel that if you have strong opinions, you need to press with those strong opinions. I feel the way I play, I don't box a lot. In pick 4s and pick 5s, I go skinny with longer shots. And then I don't want to get beat in races where I don't love anyone. This is a type of race like that. The 3 and the 5 definitely have a chance. Everyone else looks a little slow. The 2 has a chance. Single the 7. Pick 6. If you have 3 strong opinions, you should.
Exactly. So that's where we'll land. So let's move on to race 6 here. Maiden special weight, $75,000, 6 furlong sprint on the turf. Your favorite here is number 7. If I'm pronouncing it correctly, Cuccidati, 3-1. Joel Rosario, Christophe Clement. This one finished 3rd to best performance last time out on the dirt, so makes the transition over to the turf. Mark, race 6, how are we looking here?
One of the things I do, which I think makes my handicapping a little bit better, and something that not everyone does, I look into the pedigrees of the dams and the dam siblings and the dam's foals and see if I can find things where horses will be better on the turf, or if they're reaching and saying, I don't really know what to do with this horse, to try to eliminate. In this race, going through it, relatively quick without getting into too much detail, there's a few horses like that, which I don't like because I feel dirt should be their preference. But again, a trainer, connections, they know the horse a lot better than I do. So I can't say that Mark Cassie on the 8 doesn't know what he's doing, because he sure does. He runs a lot of horses on dirt, then switches them over second time out, puts them on turf and wins. But when the 8, Amazing Bell, is a half to Unrivaled Bell, who won the Breeders' Cup Distaff a bunch of years back, you would think, and they paid $230,000 for this horse, you would think that this horse, and ran second, only lost by a length in a 2-year-old race at Gulfstream. Don't you think this horse should stay on the dirt? I'm against that horse. In these 2-year-old turf races, you have to use Wesley Ward, so I have to use the 6 and the 9. The rhyme or reason behind it, sometimes I don't need any. The pedigree's okay. The workouts, he kind of works in his own barn in Kentucky, so I have to use the 6 and the 9. Other than that, I felt that the 5 had more dirt pedigree, so I will not be using the 5. The 4 has more dirt pedigree. I won't be using the 4. You're at a disadvantage in the pick 6 because you won't be able to see the odds and see who's taking money, but you won't be in the pick 4. Money is sharp in New York. They know what they're doing. The Todd Pletcher on the 2 doesn't normally win first time out on the turf, does more on dirt. This horse's pedigree on the bottom side is a little bit more dirt, but on the top side, More Than Ready is a great turf sire. So the 2 is another horse that I would use. So 2, 6, 9 I would use. And the last horse that I'm going to use in the pick 4 and in the pick 6 would be the 11. And I would put the 11 on top because of the pedigree. This horse is a half to Mississippi Delta. Won the Intercontinental Stakes last Thursday at Belmont. Has very nice turf pedigree. Steve Asmussen, first time out, can win. First time out on the turf, can win. I don't mind the outside post in a sprint race on the turf. I think even if the horse breaks a little crooked, won't bother anyone. And if it will probably get a more clear run to the finish line, won't get stuck behind horses. So I'm going to go 11 on top of the Pletcher horse, the 2 Wesley Ward horses, the 6 and the 9. I'd probably have to use the Christophe Clement horse on the 7 as well, though there is more dirt pedigree, the horse that you like there. But I would use the 11 as my press on top. 2, 6, 9, probably the 7 as a C as well. And I won't be using the Cassie horse unless things happen to change within the track and I can go spread a little bit deeper. That's going to be affordable for me.
Yeah, I definitely like where your head is at, Mark, because once again, we're kind of looking at this the same here. I'm going to use some of the horses you mentioned, not all of them, but I'm going to cut it down here. I'm going to go 3 deep here. My top pick is being the 6, Kitty Cat Kate, 4-1 for Wesley Ward, like you mentioned. First time out on dirt. Didn't really like it. Was 6 wide, faded late. In that 4.5 furlong sprint, that dead heat second place horse who was listed as 3rd here on the PPs came out to win next time out. Tries a synthetic at Woodbine May 19th. This one runs a pretty decent second, but I think Wesley Ward moving this one to the turf, who is always strong with synthetic to turf. We see it time and time again. I think this is the Wesley Ward horse to beat. Has the experience, has early speed, tactical speed, I should say. So I think this one's going to sit right off and make one run. I think that horse is the one to beat. Like you said, the 9 mentality. Fruit is a New York turf sire, and I really think this one can produce a winner. 12% first-time turfers here. The dam, not too much turf pedigree. Or I'm sorry, more rather the dam herself, not really built for turf. But this one
pedigree's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, the pedigree's okay. Kin to Lemon Tiger, an okay turf horse. But if you notice, that horse broke her maiden on some wet grass at Belmont Park. So, should we have some precipitation or participation, as Mark DiLorenzo likes to call it, we could see this one, maybe liking to it. Should that pedigree reflect there, maybe this one will take to the wet grass. So, for that reason, I don't want to throw out this one. Ricardo Santana has been kind of cold, but I think a lot of those statistics were taken from races from this prior weekend at Belmont Stakes where he didn't really have the biggest mounts. So that's why.
Rode well today.
Yeah. So I think we can see improvement from Ricardo Santana. And like you said, the 11 for Steve Asmussen, a half to Mississippi Delta, who just won that big stakes race, like you mentioned, Mark. The sire has never had a turf starter, but is 25%. He's only had 4. So hopefully with the pedigree of this one, we can get this one involved. But I'm going to take a stand here against the Todd Pletcher horse, who, like you said, doesn't win too much first time on the turf, and the 7 horse, who is the favorite here for Christophe Clement. Not sure this one would really take to the turf, coming right off that dirt race back on May 17th. So I'm going to go 6, 9, 11 here, as in the 6th race. This is maiden special. Hopefully we stay on the turf, because I definitely think you can catch some value with this 9 and the 11.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the 7th race here. And that is in a starter allowance, 1 mile on the turf. It is a pretty deep field here. You have some main track entries here, but the 1, Portando for Lindo Rice, first off the claim of Luis Saez, is the morning line favorite. Mark, 7th race. I'm 3 by single by 3. You're a 3 by single by 5. If I'm right on that. Do you cut down here? Do you want to spread a little bit? What are you doing?
No. Pending a scratch to one of the entries on the 1. If both run, I've seen the Paul Pompa barn do so. Paul Pompa barn is one of the sharpest out there in New York, especially on the turf. Owners at Connect. Linda Rice off the claim, moving up on the 1 Portando, or the 1A Carbon Data with Chad Brown, second time off a layoff. I don't need to go any farther than that. I would probably prefer the 1A to get scratched and just have them having more confidence in the 1 to clear. I don't know if that'll happen. If both run, I don't mind when an entry scratch. I actually like them a little bit more because I know that the connections have confidence. The 1 and the 1A, or the 1 entry would be a single for me. I could say a couple things about a couple other horses, but I don't see anyone that's that strong that would scare me off of the 1. Maybe the 6 getting alone on the lead, but Luis Saez is going to pressure. The 1's a single for me. I can't go a different direction in this type of spot against those connections. Speed figures are, I'm a big Thoroughgraph sheet user. They're in line and improving on a line that I like more than anyone else. Portando ran a 5 last time out. Everyone else best somewhere in the 7-8 range. That's a solid move, especially going 7 furlongs in the turf. So the one to be a single for me in race 7.
Okay, so we come to a single here. No need to spread in this big field. I'm kind of with you as well. I'm going to go too deep here. I'm going to use the entry. Like you mentioned, Portando, I would definitely prefer this one. I think this one can definitely clear the field and possibly go wire to wire. First off the claim, Linda Rice just does tremendous work with that angle, especially moving up to the starter allowance group. I'm also going to use one horse as a backup who I think has some tactical speed, just raced against this group. And that's number 9, Not Unexplained for Danny Gargan, West Point Thoroughbreds. They get Manny Franco back aboard, 2 back, now under 2 lifetime, claiming 40. Lost by a nose to War Bond. Faced the same horse last time out in a starter allowance and basically just kind of flattened out 5 wide into the lane. I think with a little bit of time, this one can definitely improve. And I think this one is the biggest threat from off the pace should the 1 not be able to wire the group. I don't need to dive more into the 1. Like you mentioned, Mark, all the credentials speak up. Paul Pompa, I'll back up the statement you said, does tremendous work on the New York circuit. He knows how to find horses. He knows where to place them. And he says a lot when it comes to the trainer. So I think the 1 is definitely the 1 to beat. I'll use the 9 as a backup, and I'll start skinning down my ticket as we go on. So I'm 1-9 here in the 7th. Mark DiLorenzo is going to single the 1. So let's move on to the 8th race. We'll get over here. This is where I'll start skinning down, but this is an optional claiming 62,000 going 1.25 miles on the turf. We have 10 starters. 10 starters here with 2 main track entries, so we'll probably have a field of 8 come post time here. Your favorite is number 10, Terralina here for Joel Rosario on the outside, teaming up with Christophe Clement once again. Dilo, what are you doing here in race 8?
You know, pace dynamics in turf races are so important. I think that the 10 could get loose on the lead. I'm not the biggest Joel Rosario fan. I don't get talked off or on a horse because of a jockey. I feel that's kind of a trap. But I have to use the 10 because he looks like the lone speed. He's carried himself going decent splits last time out off of a layoff and just holding on. The 10 is a definite must-use for me. Has ran against some really good horses. Was only 4 lengths back to Time in Motion way back when. Galileo's Song is another real good one. He's running against Time in Motion twice, actually. The 10 is kind of where it starts and stops for me. And then if there was another one I would use, the 8, I like this horse's performances way back when, but Sugar McGee, he isn't great off of this type of layoff, so I'm going to pass. The other Clement horse on the 6, it could be dangerous, but I like the 10 more. What I don't love about the 6 is a couple of things. And number 1 is that he should have done more. He should have passed a few of those horses last time out. I know Puka was a name that we had mentioned earlier who's a pretty decent horse. Yeah, it was his first time off of a layoff. Maybe he was just flat. I just didn't love that race. I thought that he could have done more there. There's a couple others coming off of a layoff. I'm against the 4 because George Weaver has just, like he normally does, he's been preparing for Saratoga. Maybe I could take another look at the 4, but I'm out on the 4. The 5 is too slow. Other than the 10, the only other one I would use would be the 1. Motion 1, even though it wasn't a stakes race, the feature today in the 8th race on the rail. Team Valor has been high on a horse like this, is getting a very positive rider change. Shipping him across country because they're going to campaign this horse in some really nice races during the summer. I like that a lot. They've always been very high on this horse. Had some troubles, had some leg problems. This horse just might be better than the other ones. So I'm going to go 1 and 10 in race 8.
So like I mentioned, this is where I have to skinny down the ticket. And I'm going to single Terralina here, the number 10 with Joel Rosario and Christophe Clement. I think this one is just hands down better than everybody else. I think if there was a horse to come and get me, I think it's the one, like you mentioned, for Team Valor and Graham Motion. But going back to the 10, second off the layoff here for Clement, look at the one. This one is just facing 2 back at Kentucky Downs in September, which is one of the best turf meets in the country. That for a couple weeks they have at Kentucky Downs in September. Beaten 7 lengths behind Try Your Luck. I definitely think it goes to say the power of this horse winning off that long layoff last time out and showing some grit, getting up there by a neck and battling foes on the wire there. Going back in this one's past Time in Motion, Galileo's song. I think this one has just faced so much tougher, and I think for that reason alone, with the lone speed, hopefully we don't get Rosario'd here, and this is where I'll single. I think this one gets away from the group with ease. I think the only other one that could show potential speed and possibly be a thorn in this one's side is number 2, Not Taken. But I'm just looking more and more at this horse, and this one just cannot keep up with this one. And I'm trying to find a reason why, the 10 could get pressured early on, and maybe it would switch up my ticket, but I just don't see that. So I'm going to roll the dice here. I'm hoping this one takes some wire to wire. I got 2 wire to wire singles I feel pretty confident about in this pick 6 sequence. So I'll single once again here with number 10, Terralina.
I like it.
Elo approves. We're good.
We're good. Last race. Let's be alive for a couple of bucks here.
Hopefully, if we're alive. Do you think this race stays on the turf, though, Mark?
This would be the one. I think that if the rain goes throughout the day, I would like them to be fair to horse players and tell us that the race will be off the turf before this pick 6 starts. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's going to rain that much. And I got to play it the way it is. If it's a dirt race, we're going to have to play completely different. But as a turf race, there's a couple horses that I've kind of narrowed it down to. And the on-top horse for me would be number 2, Zenny, 10-1 morning line. This horse has 3 siblings. All 3 won on the turf. Mr. Bond, James Bond, knows how to get them ready first time out. As a 3-year-old going against some older horses in here. Actually, the 3 is an older horse. The 1 is an older horse. Yeah, there's a couple of 4-year-olds, maybe a 5-year-old scattered in there. But this is a weak field. I feel first time out, this horse does not need to run a huge number to win. You're going to get a good price. The other horse that I would use is number 3, Hope's Roar. I don't love using an 0 for 12 horse, but putting the blinkers on, being closer to the lead, has sheet numbers that are just better than most of these. Being a 5-year-old and a little bit more mature, has had dirt kicked in her face before. I like going to get a small cutback, so I'm hoping the blinkers puts her closer to the lead. The 2 and the 3 would be my on-top horses. After that, it's spread open. It's wide open. I don't like anyone on the outside. Well, I don't like these layoff horses in maiden races, maiden claiming races. No thanks. The number 1 off of 413 days. No thanks. And the 7 I want to use because of the connections, Linda Rice, but I don't like that gap in workout. May 25th was her last workout. Before then, it was May 1st. I don't like to see that long on a maiden. Linda Rice historically usually spaces her works out maybe 10 days, 24, 25 days. Not great. But this horse is a half to a real nice turfer. Why are they putting her in for 40 if that's the case? Some question marks. 2 and the 3 is where I'll go.
So where I stand right now, I'm 3 by single, by 3 by 2 by single, and I'm going to single one more time. And Mark, it's the horse you were just talking about, and that's Trace Charmant, the number 7 horse for Jose Ortiz and Linda Rice. These are my favorite connections to bank on here. And her first time turf starting percentage is near 20%, especially when debuting at the maiden claiming level. Just in general, turf is near 30%. I understand the concern, especially with the space and workouts that obviously, kind of make you, double take there, especially loading up for this one. But I think this one, who is half to Flattery, will get you, Mark, if that was the horse you were referring to, who's a very good turfer. I don't see much else in this race whatsoever. I'm afraid of the 12. Don't know how that one will take to the turf. I think if this race gets moved onto the dirt and we're aware of that, then I'm definitely going to use this one and throw out the 7 because I think that one would just be way too tough with the speed. But playing it on the turf for right now, I'm going to single again the Linda Rice. Like I said, I love Freud on the turf. A 12% turf sire just does some great work, and we see so many great horses during this meet come from that sire. So hopefully things are rolling. I mean, you can go right through this field and eliminate half of it. So, I'm a big fan of Jorge Abreu, who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mark, was the second-hand man to Chad Brown, debuted some sharp horses in Saratoga last year. But still, this one is going to come from the clouds. I don't like that. 0 for 12, don't like that. And then the long layoff in between trainers there. It's a little bit scary. I don't know if this one's the same horse. I think this one's beatable. The Engelhart horse dropping in class, once again coming off a long layoff, also looks tough here. So I think just for a value perspective, if I'm alive, I'd probably want to be alive to a big price here. So I'm going to roll with the 7. I'll roll the dice. I'll single here, try to get this one done. However, if we are moved to the dirt and we do know ahead of time, I'll go 2 deep here. I think Zen is a must include, who finished a good 4th in the Limbrook. 2 back, has been facing much tougher. Our Precious Stones, a good Roddy Valente horse, will burn money. Breeze Got Heart, Paths of the Bourbon. I think that one's a must include if this one gets on the dirt. And, of course, the main track only entrance, Song for the Soul, a Wesley Ward horse, first-timer here. Definitely think those ones are going to be the 2 to get involved. Mark, do you have an opinion? Should this race get moved to the dirt?
You touched on everything. If this horse comes off the turf, there's a lot of different ways we can go, seeing who's scratched, seeing where to go, what to do. I thought that an interesting horse in pick 4 could be the 4, getting first-time Lasix with Michelle Nevin. I've seen her do this before, run the horse the first time, not really run a step, come back the second time with Lasix, decent turf pedigree. Thought that would be someone mentioned, but no, I like the 2 and the 3. If I can afford a little bit deeper, maybe I'd go the 4. And if you're not playing vertical, if you're not playing a horizontal, pick 6, pick 4, look at the board. Money knows, especially in these races, these maiden state-bred claiming races, big prices. You know, you can yield a big price out of this. I love if I have a strong opinion in earlier races in the pick 4, having maybe a little all at the end, getting alive for a couple of bucks. You want to move the church? You want to move the Churchill?
And I would say, I'm going to touch on this, in the majority of my pick 4s I play on the New York circuit, I will try to cut down the ticket to get to an Allburger in maiden claimers on the turf. If you look at the statistics, I mean, that's where you get an extreme ROI. So I think it's well worth it, especially playing a 50-cent wager. So, Mark, you got some strong opinions here on Churchill Downs, and let's move on to Saturday, June 17th at Churchill Downs. It's Stephen F. Foster Day, a big card. Sure to get some prices here. Let's look at race 7 first. That's the Fleur de Lis handicap, a grade 2, a mile and 1/8 on the dirt. And they'll have to beat number 1, Forever Unbridled, coming from the Breeders' Cup Distaff, finishing behind Beholder and Songbird for Dallas Stewart. Mark, you told me you had an opinion in here. Is your opinion the 4 to 5? Is this where I can?
No, I have 2 opinions.
Shocker. Let's get to it.
I have 2 opinions. One in the 7th race, one in the 8th race. The rest of the card is tough, but I'm against Forever Unbridled at 4 to 5. Hasn't run since the Breeders' Cup. Normally, at this time of year, when a horse has taken this long of time off, coming back from Breeders' Cup, especially an older mare, you don't know what's going to happen and come back. Dallas Stewart is not Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, a few others that run huge off of layoffs. I'm against it 4 to 5. I feel that the 5 and the 7 are going to go to the lead. I feel that both horses are going to, especially the 7, are going to kind of have to rush because of having the outside. Not going to want to save it. They're going to want to save a ton of ground. Belmont's had a pretty decent Churchill Downs meet. It's had a really bad New York meet. I know we were talking about the other days when 3 races in New York. All of them were like in the same day or the day or 2 after. So that lands me on the 3. Carumba, I think, is going to stalk and pounce. I liked this horse's last race against a very nice mare in Terra Promisa. It never had a chance. It was outmatched that day, but I think that it's going to sit the right trip. When you chase a horse, I think it's one of the hardest things for a horse to do, and I love playing it back, meaning when you're chasing a horse that's 5 or 6 lengths in front of you, the horse doesn't feel that it's on the lead. It's not stalking. It's not getting pushed. It doesn't really know what to do. Sometimes the jockey gets a little bit lost too, even though Castellano's real good. I feel that that's not going to be the case. I think that he's going to be a little bit closer. By the Moon came back and won last week, who had lost to 2 back. Another racing surface at Belmont that was very, very speed friendly. This is 2 back for the 3 Carumba. I could toss that race. Last race, it was chasing a very nice horse. Let's get it's going to set a little bit closer to the pace because the speed horses are speed, but they're not blazing speed. I feel that they're going to hook up. John Velasquez knows what to do. Sit 2-3 wide, clear around the turn, coming down the stretch, and I think you're going to get a really nice price. So I'm on the 3 Carumba. Is going to be a nice play for me.
On Carumba, like this one as well. Like you mentioned, that race back in Pimlico just was no shot for Terra Promesa. I got a horse in here, and you touched on him here, and that's number 5, Big World. I know you said that the 7, Apology Not Accepted for Belmont, is going to be obviously right on this one, but I think number 5, Big World, is just so much quicker. I mean, if you're looking at the speed figures this one's posting and just the races they're running, and this one's racing much more competitively against better fields. This one won a Grade 1 last out over a sloppy course on Oaks Day. I think this one's just more classy and more ready. Also, with Florent Giroux aboard, this one also has proven the ability to rate. So I'm not really sure what I really want this one to do. Do I want this one to put away the 7 because I truly believe she can? Or is it best to sit back and, let this cheap speed, as I would label the 7 as, and pounce with Carumba? I'm not really sure, but I think this one's sitting on a big trip. This one's won 4 in a row, comes back to Churchill Downs. Like I said, just won here last month. Tom Amoss has been having an incredible meet. I hope the ball keeps on rolling for this one here. If I had a preference of really what I want this one to do, like I said, I just want this one to put away the 7. I think this one is so much quicker. The races that Apology Not Accepted is running in over speed bias courses at Gulfstream Park, going the 1-turn mile. I'm not really sure. I know last out at Churchill, she took to, going 2 turns, but I'm not really sure how great that field was, though you have a next out winner, another horse that winds up here. I just think this one's a little bit way over her head here. And I just think Big World is much more quicker. So I'm going to roll a Big World. If I had to, add another horse, it would be Carumba. I'm with you on Forever Unbridled. I think this one, especially with Older coming back from a race like that, I mean, you're telling me Dallas Stewart couldn't find any race in a 7-month span, to get this one back and going. It's kind of hard to believe, in my opinion. I'm not sure this one will be ready. Off these types of layoffs, the horse really hasn't had too much success. Even if you look from May 1st of 2015 to October 17th of 2015, didn't run at all. I know it was a big price horse, but still did not appreciate that kind of layoff. So I definitely think you can find a price in here. So I'll roll with number 5, Big World, going into the Stephen F. Foster. How's that?
I agree with everything you're saying. I think taking a shot against the 45 shot that's the way to go. Let me bring up the last race in the Stephen F. Foster. I'm going to take a shot with a huge price in number 5, Motown. I'm against a couple of the big favorites. Gunrunner coming in from Dubai World Cup Day in Medellin. It was a closer bias track. It was on the front end. Ran an unbelievable race. Is a must-use. But let's go with Motown. Last out in the slop on Derby Day. You wanted to be on the inside. This horse was 7 wide, 5, 6 wide the entire time. I think that's a dirtied up, very, very nice race. I think that the other horses in the race, other than Gunrunner, are very vulnerable. I think the 1, the 3, and the 8 are going to want to go to the lead, tire themselves out. Motown sits a perfect trip, closes, clears. You get 20 to 1.
I looked at this one, for a good time here, and I got to say that Corey Lannery is by far one of the best closing jockeys in the country, especially at this track. He just knows how to ride him here. And I mentioned Tom Amoss last race, having an incredible meet, and this one does have a little bit of a dirtied up form. But I'm going to go with a horse that I think will be a little bit closer than your 5 and has actually raced against your 5 in a bunch of recent starts here, and that's number 4, Honorable Duty. Castellano comes down here with Brendan Walsh to ride in this one. Finished second in the Ali Sheba last time out over a sloppy course. Finished second in the Bird Song. But if you go 2 back, won the Grade 3 Mine Shaft and the Grade 2 New Orleans Handicap at Fairgrounds from pretty much, a stalking spot. Broke slow in both those races and spotted the field multiple lengths. 2 back, 13 lengths, and 3 back, 8 lengths. I think this one with a good break gets a major upgrade from James Graham to Javier Castellano. I think this one is going to be ready and sit right off the pace. With Gunrunner coming back from that Dubai hangover, as I label it, I'm not sure he'll be ready. We see time and time again horses succumb to that layoff coming back from Dubai. So hopefully this one isn't ready at 4 to 5. We can catch a price. I'm on Honorable Duty here at 6 to 1. Maybe I'll wheel them around with your Motom here at 20 to 1, and we can really get things going down there at Churchill Downs.
I like everything you just said. I like betting against 4 to 5 shots.
That's how you make your money in this game, Mark. You got anything else that we can rattle off about these next 2 days here in the horse racing world?
No, I think that the Saturday Churchill card at night is a great, great card. I want to dive a little bit more into the turf races and kind of see where I land. And I think that the pick 5 pool is going to be huge. So I would love to be alive in the pick 5 pool with no Tom.
Oh, you're looking at some tens of thousands of dollars. Hopefully, if it's going to wind up how we're looking at it here. Mark Delo, thank you for coming on, my friend. Hit some batting practice. Me and Mark Delo can hit some batting practice at Citi Field pretty soon. Delo hasn't picked up a bat in, 10 years?
I'm terrible.
Terrible. We'll see. We shall see, my friend. Delo, thanks for coming on as always, man. Much appreciated.
Giddy up.
Good luck, guys.